There are lots of wordy explanations about on and off the job training, which can be confusing. So we've pulled together this short video with the key information you need. Put simply, off the job training is made up of learning opportunities within normal working hours. Those normal hours must not include overtime or annual leave, and the reason for this is overtime by its nature is often short notice because of staff shortages, heavy workloads, or last-minute changes. Overtime is also likely to be very busy, making it difficult to provide time for off-the-job training and new learning to take place. Off-the-job training must be relevant to your apprenticeship standard and enable an apprentice to develop and acquire new knowledge, skills, and behaviours. That said, off-the-job training does not include training that is purely focused on doing the job and is not directly related to the apprenticeship standard, nor should it include any learning related to maths, English, and ICT, unless it's embedded within or contextualised to the apprenticeship standard. Whilst there is recognition that some learning needs to be within a live environment, this should be minimal, and the majority of learning should be away from the pressures of work. Off-the-job training is underpinned by the application and practice of this learning in the live working environment. This is known as on-the-job training. We'll revisit this again later. A change in the funding rules in August 2022 meant a change to your off-the-job entitlement. If you were enrolled prior to August 1st, 2022, the minimum off-the-job training entitlement is 20% of your normal working hours. This is irrespective of how many hours you work. If you were enrolled on or after the August 1st, 2022, and you work 30 hours a week or more as your normal working hours, you must complete a minimum average of 6 hours per week as off-the-job training during the practical period of your apprenticeship. Regardless of when you started your apprenticeship, if you work fewer than 30 hours per week, your off-the-job training entitlement is a minimum of 20% of your normal working hours. Please make sure you're aware of your minimum entitlement. If you aren't sure, or you're not receiving your off-the-job training entitlement away from your normal working responsibilities, please speak with your coach. So let's look at who's responsible for what. Your employer should support you with identifying opportunities and activities for you to take part in during your working hours. They must also make sure time is given to you to complete your necessary learning activities. Our responsibility is to support the planning of off-the-job training with you and your employer, working collaboratively to make sure the required off-the-job training is complete to allow for your progression through your gateway to your endpoint assessment. We also support you to ensure your off-the-job training is tracked and recorded in Smart Assessor, your e-portfolio system. Your responsibility is to track and monitor your own off-the-job training, supported by us and your employer. Activities and targets agreed for you must be completed, but you should also seek out relevant opportunities to build your knowledge, skills, and behaviours. Your employer should then plan your on-the-job training to support you with opportunities to apply, practice, and develop your learning. Why is there a need for off-the-job training? Ultimately, an apprenticeship is a job with a formal, regulated programme of training, but let's look at how this is made up. Your apprenticeship will be made up of formal learning, maybe in a classroom or virtually on the online learning platforms we're now all getting used to. This might be structured sessions, webinars, and online or face-to-face sessions with your coach, and will make up a small part of your learning. Some of your learning is done socially, sharing and interacting with others, friends, family, peers, or in the workplace. This might include working with a mentor at work, taking part in coaching forums and social groups, including the online group sessions you may be part of in your apprenticeship. This is the golden time you will get with mentors and peers, sharing your experiences, so make sure you make the most of these and participate as much as you can. The rest of your knowledge development comes from working with new and challenging experiences and having the opportunity to reflect on these. Throughout your journey, your coach will talk to you about the experiences you have had at work and support you to apply what you're learning to those experiences. Off-the-job training has all three of these elements within it. Let's look at your learner journey and see how it fits in. You will spend time with your coach completing independent study, which represents the formal learning. Most of this should be done within normal working hours, including sessions with your coach. If you find you're constantly having to meet your coach outside of your working hours, or you're being asked to make your learning time up, this needs to be raised with your employer. If you aren't sure how to do this, or you have done this and there is no change in the situation, speak to your coach for some guidance and support. In between, you will complete independent online study and work within the workplace, and you'll also spend time learning socially with mentors and through peer discussions. Off-the-job training is generally the social and formal learning. However, there may also be some elements of the experiential learning that may count towards your off-the-job training in the planning and reflecting either side of it. Providing you can record what learning has taken place, its relevance to the standard, and how you will apply it to your workplace and job role. Let's go back to your learning journey and quickly see what you do along the way that can be used. Sessions with your coach relevant to the apprenticeship, receiving feedback, teaching and learning and reflecting on what you've learned. Personal development discussions to reflect on previous learning and planning new learning, both with your coach and with your employer. Writing assignments and completing projects for activities. Preparation and research completed for assessments, including professional discussions, observations or interviews. And once these are complete, writing reflective journals to support consolidation of learning and planning for the future. Role-playing or simulation exercises with mentors and peers away from the pressures of work, or observations of mentors. In-house training, attendance at workshops, training days and webinars, and at industry events or conferences which are relevant to the apprenticeship. Any teaching and learning or self-study relevant to the apprenticeship standard, including reading, watching videos, and completion of online learning. Learning new skills at work through shadowing other members of the team. Practical training or training in a workplace on new working practices or new equipment relevant to the apprenticeship standard. Practice assessments to improve knowledge, skills, and behaviours, and also mock assignments to prepare for your endpoint assessment. Your enrolment officer and coach can talk you through some of the specific examples of off-the-job training relevant to your sector, but the key messages you need to take from this video is that it needs to be relevant, new learning, and completed within your normal working hours. So how do you plan, log, and record off-the-job training? Discuss your knowledge, skills and behaviours initial assessment that you completed at enrolment with your coach on your first visit to check your existing levels of knowledge, skills and behaviours. This will help you identify what training you need. Using the learner journey and in discussion with your employer, agree what activities and opportunities are available in your job role and in your workplace setting. It's important to make sure your employer knows you do not need to be out for one full day a week, as long as over the duration of your practical period, your minimum off-the-job training entitlement is met. You may not do much one month, but then spend a lot of time training the following month. Be flexible with your employer, but make sure you're receiving it. All off-the-job training must be planned, just as independent study is planned and progress is reviewed by yourself and your coach at each review session. If any planned off-the-job training does not take place for any reason, it must be replanned. Prepare to reflect with your employer in your next one-to-one session, and then with your coach when you next see them, on what you've learnt, how it has developed the knowledge, skills and behaviour gaps identified so far, and how you can apply your learning to the workplace. This means that planning of future teaching and learning sessions can be targeted to address weaker areas or gaps, and you don't spend time going over things you already know. Ensure you're recording your off-the-job training in your time log and explore future learning opportunities that may be available to you. If you aren't sure how to do this, check in with your coach and they'll be able to show you. When reflecting on and recording your off-the-job training, a key area to consider is what impact this has had on developing your knowledge and understanding. This should help you reflect and layer what you're learning with your coach, in addition to the off-the-job training you're getting in the workplace. We've provided some questions that might help you in thinking about how to reflect on what you've learned. What process did you go through, and did you encounter any challenges? If you did, how did you solve them, and what resources or support did you use? How could the process have been improved? And finally, always identify one goal for next time. This has been a quick video, and you might have further questions about this, so speak to your enrolment officer or coach for more information.